What's going on, guys? It's DigiWatch TCG coming to you with another discussion video. Today we're going to be looking at First Royal Knight, the 13th set in the Digimon card game. Now, we don't have this officially in English. We're probably going to be getting it later this year, but it's never too soon to talk about an archetype and what they do. So with that said, we're going to talk about it today. Now, in the archetype, of course, BT13 kind of revolves around two different sets of cards. I think it's Digimon's Savers or Data Squad. I think that's the name of the anime. I actually kind of left the anime on that. I have to go back and definitely watch it to get more familiar with the cards, but also the Royal Knights. And we're going to be focusing just on the Royal Knights and specifically the Yggdrasill deck in this video. This deck is kind of nothing we've seen before in the Digimon card game because this is the first time we have a few different. This is the first time we have a few first with this for the card you can see on screen as well as the playstyle. First off, I will just mention that this is the first time we have a Digi Egg that is considered a super rare, if I'm not mistaken. Second, all the cards you'll see here today are actually alt arts of the card that have been released. And third, this is the first time we actually have an effect that is a breeding type of effect, meaning that this effect will only occur in the breeding area and not in the main area. Now, this could be something that is kind of maybe later used in more like future sets, but this is the one we're going to be focusing on today. So anyway, let's talk about the card and the gimmick. So first off, this is basically a rush megazoo type of deck where you do get to basically attack your opponent the same turn a lot of these Digimon come out. Also, it focuses on reduced play costs rather than digivolving, which basically means you have something in your hand, like you have a Royal Knight in your hand, you can play it, and that same turn it has Rush. And Yggdrasill, as you can see here, does have an effect that reduces it. So let's talk about the effects and get through the rest of the cards here. I'm hoping this is not going to be a 30-minute video, just a heads up. But anyway, Yggdrasill 76 effect. So it has a few of them here as the main effect and then one inherit. First off, it is a white card with no level. It is a breeding effect. Your Digimon can't digivolve, so that could tell you automatically what I was talking about before, where this deck doesn't really do anything with digivolving. You really just are hard playing everything in this deck at most times. Then it has another breeding effect. Your turn, once per turn, when you would play a Digimon card with Royal Knight in its traits, you can reduce its play cost by 4. For each of this Digimon's Digivolution cards, reduce the play cost by an additional 1. So I'll talk about this actually in full after I finish the next little segment here, and we can get into it. Then on the breeding, starting your main phase, reveal the top card of your Digi Egg deck. Place that card and all of your Digimon with Royal Knight trait in its Digimon, this Digimon, at the bottom of the Digivolution cards. So basically what this card does is it allows you to facilitate playing the Royal Knights cheaper and cheaper as the game goes on. First off, you do have a automatic -4 on all the play costs when you when you have the play cost over here for 4. Basically everything is going to be, all your Royal Knights are basically between like 11 and 13 or 15 play costs, so you should be able to essentially play at least one Royal Knight per turn. But as the game continues and progresses, every turn those Royal Knights will go underneath Yggdrasill, and then the egg itself, which probably is going to be another version of itself, will also go underneath. So every Digivolution card underneath it gets an additional 1. So when you're late game, maybe you play some of these Digimon for like a 3 or a 4 cost. But early game, you probably don't have too much. Now, in terms of breeding, the other effect here, the inherited effect, is the breeding your turn, once per turn, when you place an option card with the Royal Knight trait in your battle area, gain 1 memory. So basically what this is saying is that you have basically at the moment 1 option card that you can play, and you place it in your battle area, you gain 1 memory. I don't know if they're going to change this to be playing or place an option card, because I don't think there's anything that places a option card from this set, so maybe it's just a little bit of an errata or translation error. So just something to keep in mind, but that is the first thing we'll talk about. The next card we're going to talk about here is, I think it's called Omegamon, not Omegamon, but you can see it's supposed to be kind of like a toon version of the Omegamon or Omnimon. It has an on play draw 1, and then on deletion place 1 Digimon card with Raw Knight trait in your hand underneath Yggdrasill 7d6 in your breeding area as its bottom Digivolution card. So this again is a way of speeding up your process. You can hard play this, and if it doesn't get deleted, you can basically be able to swing into your opponent's security or Digimon and delete this Digimon to reduce the cost of your future Royal Knights. And that's really all it does there. So let's get on to the next thing. This is our first Royal Knight here. I'm going to probably go by color here. And the first card is our Jessamon. Jessamon is a 11 to play, 3 to Digivolve, 11,000 DP, level 6 in red. On play, when Digivolving, choose any number of your opponent's Digimon cards that total adds up to 6,000 DP or less, and delete them. For every other Digimon you have in play, add 2,000 to the max DP you can choose with this effect. And then all turns, all your Digimon gain 1,000 DP for each other Digimon with Sistermon and its name or Renate and traits in play. So this is one of your ways of removing your opponent's Digimon. And something you also want to do is with this deck is try to avoid cards like Psychmon that avoid reducing play costs, because that's probably going to be one of the only ways of really hurting this deck at the moment against purple decks. So there might be other cards, of course, down the line that we have, and other cards and play strategies that say you can't reduce the play cost of a card. Of course, I think there are a few already there, like Solarmon and Jikorimon, but it's just something to consider, with this here. This is basically your removal. So anyway, let's get into your next one here, and it's Gankomon. So Gankomon actually, I think, switched sides. I think it was originally a black and then red color, but now it's a red and black color. So it just switched the colors of the one we have. But anyway, it is a 13 cost, 5 to Digivolve from red or black. It's a dual color red-black level 6, and it is a 13,000 EP. It's a blocker on play. When Digivolving, you play 1 Digimon card with Systemon in its name from your trash, or 1 Digimon card with Royal Knight in its traits from your Digivolution cards from when your Digimon from the breeding area without paying memory costs. You can't pay Omnimon or Gankomon with this effect. So this, in my opinion, is a really good facilitator, especially if your opponent starts to get a lot of momentum, to bring out a few different blockers or other effects. Like you could bring that Jessamon that I just talked about back in order to blow up some of your opponent's cards. You could bring up some other cards we'll talk about in a bit to be able to remove your opponent's cards or at least gain additional effects from them. So I do think Gankomon is going to be one of those cards that maybe is played a little bit more than the other ones in there. But it is a 13 cost, so automatically on the first turn, it's probably going to be something like a 13, like a 11 or a 9. Yeah, 9 cost to play automatically. So that's giving your opponent a lot of memory. So you do want to kind of wait a little bit with this on the card. Maybe mid-game this is good. All right, so next card here is All Force Veedramon. So this is a 11,000 DP, 11 to play cost, 3 Digivolve from blue, level 6. So this one is an on play when Digivolving, trash the top 2 cards of one of your opponent's Digimon with Digimon with one of your opponent's Digimon with 1 each for each of your Digimon with Royal Knight in its traits, and each of your blue tamers in play. For your turn, once per turn, when you play a Digimon with Royal Knight trait or a blue tamer, return one of your opponent's Digimon with no sources to the owner's hand. So this is kind of like another removal option, in my opinion, like similar to how Jessamon works, in where, yeah, you're going to trash sources, so maybe some other decks that play in that format will be able to essentially be able to build a stack, and then this card is just going to trash a couple of those sources, and you can continuously use this like over and over again if you use this with Gankomon, depending on the strategy. I think the deck in general has a lot of versatility to it. Yeah, there is very much a one-way win condition with this card, with this deck, but being able to know, like, okay, well, I'll do better if I strip sources from my opponent rather than playing like deleting kind of effects, might be a way of looking at this deck as well as terms of ratios. But yeah, let's keep going. We still have a lot to cover here. We have the next one here. This is probably one of my favorites out of the set. This is Kentaurismon. Kentaurismon is an on play when digivolving. So let me go over the stat line first. 13 to play, 5 to digivolve from yellow. 13,000 DP. It is a level 6 yellow card, and it's actually the first super rare we're going over in terms of actual Royal Knights. On play when digivolving, if you're the total number of both players' security cards is 6 or less, gain 3 memory, reveal 1 card from your hand. If that is a yellow card, place it on top of your security stack face down. If not, return it to the hand. And then when attacking, by trashing 1 card from top of your security stack, unsuspend this Digimon, and one of your opponent's Digimon gets minus 7,000 for the turn. This is a really good card in my opinion, and this card actually has a few different utilities. First off, I didn't include it in here, but there is a card called Richard Sampson, which basically has an effect that if this card is trashed from your security stack, you can play it automatically. So one way you can kind of utilize this effect is having Richard Sampson in your hand, putting it on the top of your security, and then when you do attack with Kentaurismon, now it's trashed, and you get to be able to attack with it. Now, this card over here, you know, it might not necessarily be an easy one to play, but it does allow you to recover a little bit and maybe sometimes even keep it your turn. And this would probably be a good mid to late game type of card because you've done some damage to your opponent. Maybe you're both lower than 6 total cards, and you can activate this effect. So I do like the Kentaurismon here, very much so. So anyway, let's keep going. Now, one of my personal favorites is Magnamon. Not necessarily this version, but I do think that it's kind of cool. But yeah, it is a blocker. Let me go over stat line. 7,000 DP, 7 cost to play, 4 to digivolve from a yellow. It does have an alternate digivolving effect over a Vmon, but as we don't digivolve in this deck, it doesn't really matter as much. It is a blocker. And that's essentially its like effect. And then all turns when this Digimon will leave play, draw 1 card, then you can play 1 Vmon from your hand or this Digivolution card without paying the memory cost. I don't know how much utility this will have other than just being a very cheap blocker to have on the field. But it does seem okay. I mean, it might be one of those things where maybe you want to play a Vmon. Vmon can search for maybe some dual color cards. I don't know. I do think that this card is good in some respects, but definitely a little bit more weaker than the other Royal Knights. So let's keep going. We do have Leopardmon. This one is actually pretty interesting. It's actually the first one we don't have as an on-play, but actually a main effect. So this one would definitely be better if you are able to keep it on the field and activate its effect the same turn it comes out. So when digivolving main once per turn, you may play one Digimon card with Royal Knight trait or green Digimon from your hand, paying the memory cost. When you would play, so you have to pay the memory cost. Yeah. When you would pay the memory cost, reduce the card, the play cost by 4. So this kind of utilizes that same effect that Yggdrasill does by being able to reduce the cost of playing the card. Overall, I think that again mid game this card is gonna be pretty good. You'll probably be able, honestly, I feel like the best strategy is to abuse Gankomon and just bring out this one and then bring out another one from your hand and kind of play it that way. But you are paying a memory cost for both cards, so just keep that in mind. It may be something you are it's a little bit more riskier, but at least maybe you get a blocker on field or something like that. Alright, so all turns when you play another Digimon, all your Digimon will innate its traits, and all your green Digimon gain blocker until the end of your opponent's turn. So again, one of those cards that can be utilized in multiple ways, and a lot of your Royal Knights are honestly kind of like a blocker type of card at the moment, but you'll see why everything kind of adds up. You do block a lot in this deck until pretty much the last couple of turns. So let's get into the next one. We do have a new Examon here, green blue, 14 to play, 14,000 DP, 4 to digivolve from green or blue, and then it has an alternate DNA requirement as well. Now again, each card here can be played in a its own deck, so usually you can utilize the specific card's power in each deck there. But an on-play and when Digivolving effect is suspend one of your opponent's Digimon. That Digimon doesn't unsuspend during your opponent's next unsuspend phase. Kind of like that Dino Beamon effect where you're able to target one of your Digimon, suspend it, and then it just doesn't unsuspend. And then alternates once per turn, when your opponent's Digimon becomes suspended, you can activate one of the effects below, suspend one of your opponent's Digimon, or unsuspend one of your Digimon. So this is also a really good card because you can attack with one of your Digimon, then you can unsuspend that same Digimon, attack again, or utilize its own effect, or even like maybe like just what the one we were talking about here. Like you could use the main, and maybe you're able to get Examon out somehow and keep it your turn, and then you can activate it's the Examon's effect, unsuspend this, and then attack with it too. So it gets an attack and the main effect in the same turn. So just something to keep in mind, like that's kind of like some synergy between different cards. Going into our next card, we do have Alphamon. This is another super rare. It is a really good card. I think this is one of the linchpins of the entire deck, and it does follow some lore, which I'll just mention toward the end of the description. But it's 12,000 DP to play, 12 to play, 12,000 DP for Digivolve from black, and it is a level 6 black and is another super rare, like I mentioned before, and on play when Digivolving. So by placing one Digimon card with X antibody or Royal Knight in its traits from your trash under this Digimon as its bottom source, until the end of your opponent's turn, your Digimon with a play cost of 10 or more can attack a player. So it's similar to that Congo effect that levels play cost of 7 or less cannot attack. This is like saying, yeah, anything that's above that, maybe your ultimate or your mega, cannot attack the player. So it is kind of an interesting card. And then all turns once per turn, when this Digimon would leave the battle area by an effect by placing one card with X antibody or Royal Knight in its traits from this from the Digivolution card to the bottom of the owner's deck, prevent it from leaving play. I always like a card that effect that puts it to the bottom of the deck, mainly because like it just kind of at least assists a tiny bit with like deck out strategies where your opponent might try to deck out and it's like, yeah, well, at least I'm recycling a few cards. But what I like about this is it follows a little bit of lore. If you don't know, Alphamon is actually the only Royal Knight that has the ability of actually doing its own thing and staying outside the realms of like Yggdrasill's will and such, and it kind of can like, it still is like loyal to the Royal Knights, but it kind of is like its monitor. It looks at both the digital world and the real world in terms of the lore and decides what is best for both worlds. Sort of like its own like kind of moderator standing outside of conflicts and such like that. And only comes in when there is a threat to the Yggdrasill itself or the digital world. So that is what I like about this card a lot. I could be slightly off, by the way, in the description of the card. But we're going to go on to our next Digimon, which is another really good one. It's another SR. It is Craniumon. It's a 13 to play, 13 DP. 5 to Digivolve from black. It is a blocker, and then it's on play, and when Digivolving is this Digimon isn't affected by the effects of your opponent's Digimon until the end of your opponent's turn. And then the end of your opponent's turn, you may choose one of your opponent's Digimon. That chosen Digimon attacks. So if your opponent does have a suitable Digimon, by the way, this is only if the card is like the rules don't like stop it. Like for example, if you play the card the same turn it comes out, it still can't attack regardless of like this kind of effect. It has to be like, oh, I Digivolved and I just left it on the field here, or I Digivolved it and I just didn't know what to do, and so I'm gonna have to attack with it and have to use Craniumon's effect. So that is basically what this card is. Kind of a really good card. There is a support card I could mention in a future video when I probably do a set breakdown, but I do like this card a lot. Then we have our purple cards, so let's go over them. We only have a few cards left until we get to our boss monster and the reason why this deck is actually played. So we have, this is Dynasmon. It's actually the first time I think we have a Dynasmon as a purple. It's a 10 to play, which I think is the lowest one we've had so far. So this is going to probably be the easier one to get out early game. It's 11,000 DP, 3 to Digivolve from purple, and then it's a level 6, of course. It's rare. On play, when Digivolving, reveal the top 4 cards of your deck. Add 2 cards with Lucemon in their name, or the Royal Knight and traits to your hand. So you can add Royal Knights or Lucemons to your hand. So of course you're probably going to want to combine your BT4, I think it was BT4 Lucemon, BT7 Lucemon maybe in there. Maybe play a couple of cards like Dead or Alive, such like that. Trash the rest, and then your turn when you would play another Digimon with Lucemon in its name, or the Royal Knight trait, delete all your opponent's Digimon, level 4 level or Digimon. So kind of a way of board cleaning if necessary. So it's a good card, not typically anything good, but this kind of shows you what other cards you can run in the deck. Of course, your Royal Knights are a big priority, but you could also play stuff like Lucemon. You could play stuff like Dead or Alive. You can even play stuff like Mirai. That's a purple and a yellow that'll give you at least 1 extra memory per turn. And so that kind of can give you some of the cards you want to play on the outside. Also, just as a small mention, you could play Sistermon cards because Sistermon does have effects with any of the Royal Knights, so that's just something to keep in mind. We do have Crusadermon, or Lord Knightmon, whatever you want to call her. It's a 12 to play, 3 to Digivolve, purple card, 11,000 DP, and again, first time that Crusadermon, Lord Knightmon, is a purple card. So let's go into it. It's a rare. On play, when Digivolving, kind of a similar effect with Dynasmon. You can return 1 card with Lucemon in its name, or run a traits from your trash to your hand. Opponent's turn, once per turn, when an opponent's Digimon attacks, for each card with Royal Knight, Digimon with Royal Knight in his traits in play, gain 1 memory. So it does kind of say, like, I do have a blocker here, but if you're still willing to try to attack my life, maybe you're going to have to lose some memory to do so. So it's kind of good with the deck, and I don't know how much it'll do well with, like, its own purple archetype, but I do see it having a little bit of utility in this deck. Now we're going to go over, I think this is the secret. I threw this at the end because these are the secrets we'll talk about, and then we'll talk about the linchpin of this deck in just a moment. So this card is the secret for a reason. It basically uses a lot of the other effects here. So I'll just talk about it. So Gallantmon is the card here, or Dukemon, however you want to call him. When you would play this card from your hand, if you do not have a Digimon play, reduce the play cost by 2 for every 5 cards in both layers trash. So for every 5 means, like, if you have 10, you'll reduce it by 4 by its own effect. And then you do have the effect of something like Yggdrasill, that's another 4 plus whatever else. And since you are hoping that you have cards in your trash, you probably are about mid-game to late game now. So most likely you play this for very, very cheap. It has Rush, so it can attack the same turn it comes out. And then on play, when Digivolving and when attacking, delete 1 of your opponent's Digimon with 6,000 DP. And if no Digimon is deleted by this effect, delete 1 of your opponent's Digimon with 13,000 DP. In other words, it's basically saying that if you have something in the middle, like a 7,000, maybe basically like a level 5, you might be safe, but if there's anything above or below, it at least gets to get rid of something your opponent might have. I do like it. Like, I think it definitely is going to be one of those cards you want to play a few copies of in the deck. And then, of course, this is the linchpin right here, is Omnimon. So Omnimon is a 14 to play, can Digivolve from red or blue for 14,000 DP, and it is the only level 7 here, and is a secret rare, as Gallantmon was before. This is what the deck has been leading to. This is basically your final play. It doesn't matter what your opponent has. Like, they might have nothing in their security, but this card, my goodness, it is very good, and this is what you've been hoping to get toward the end. So on play and when Digivolving, you can delete 1 of your opponent's Digimon, or play 1 of each Digimon card with a different name and with Royal Knight trait from the Digivolution cards under the Digimon in the breeding area without paying memory cost. First, I just want to talk about that before I read the rest. So basically what that means is you can either delete a bunch of your opponent's Digimon or play 1 of each of the Royal Knights from your trash to the field. I mean, not trash, under Yggdrasill to your field without paying memory costs. If you played a Digimon by this effect, trash 1 card in your breeding area, and all your Digimon gain Rush for the turn. So Yeah, you just like you're reading that, you're like, what? So basically, what this does is it brings all your ordnance out, and then yggdrasill goes to your trash. Now, this is there's a couple of different things that this actually can do. This can really be effective with. First off, if you have other cards that are gonna be able to be used now, like these Lord Knights are now gonna stay; they don't go anywhere. Um, Also, this doesn't say anything about them not gaining their on play effects, so you actually do get all their on plays. And then additionally, they all have rush, so you're going to be able to swing. And so if you at least have 5 Roaring Knights in play, you're going to be able to attack with 5 Roaring Knights, and possibly do game to your opponent. That's basically what this deck is. It's basically saying, I have a blocker, I have another blocker, I have another blocker, but now I have a Digimon. So by the way, we didn't make that 30 minutes. We're almost 20. We're 25. So unfortunately, I think that this is pretty much where we're gonna continue on to. So anyway, though, that's basically the style of the deck. Like you're kind of using all these cards here to like to get to your like cards like Alphamon, Examon. You know, you get all these guys out, and so you do want to kind of set your deck up where you're playing 3 to 4 copies. So at least a few of those are going to be um, in your boy here. So that's basically the big thing. Now, the one other card here that does help the deck and can be very strongly utilized is the only option that came out, and I think it's called like something of the Royal Knights. I'm trying to remember the name of it. I think it's called Purge of the Royal Knights. I think that's what the name of the card is. So it's made as a draw one, and also as I mentioned before, for every Digivolution source, I believe the inherited of Yggdrasil. Let me just go back and check. Yeah, so when you place an option card in your from Royal Knight in your battle area, place one gain 1 memory. So you may pay actually something like 6, but then you're getting back like 4, maybe 5. Memory for the sources. So anyway, um, this card is really good. You may place one Digimon card from your hand under one of your Yggdrasil 76s in the breeding area as its bottom Digivolution card. Then place this card into your battle area. So that is the little place this card in your battle area. And then main delay is play one Digimon with Royal Knight and its traits from its Digivolution cards under the Digimon in your breeding area without paying the memory cost. And then the on play is not activated, but it does gain rush for the turn. So this is kind of like the honorary Omnimon, where you can basically bring a Digimon out and it gains rush, but it doesn't get the on play effect. It's just kind of a body to do some damage. It could be good just to get a couple of quick swings in, but this is obviously a 4 of in the deck. This is basically the only other card that was like basically one of your win cons. Sometimes you could even just use this as your win con, because if your opponent has nothing on the field, you could just like say, okay, I'm going to activate the option here, bring out a Royal Knight. A Royal Knight now gets rush, and you just swing for game. Kind of like a hybrid for rush, and you can have multiple of these in play, I believe. So you can have 4 of these and just continuously trigger each one. Oh, bring it out, swing. Okay, same thing. Bring swing. Bring swing, bring swing, and then at the end of your opponent's turn, or start of your main phase, I mean, all those Royal Knights go back to underneath Yggdrasil. So it is something to keep in mind. That's basically what I had for you today in terms of the Royal Knights. I'm really excited for the set. Royal Knights, for me, it's been a really cool part of the Digimon lore. This is why I kind of got into the game, is for lore like this, and I really hope to hear more about future support for Royal Knights. But I'm really excited to see how this deck is going to work. I've been hoping for a megazoo type of deck for a long time, and this looks like it's going to be like a megazoo type of deck that we're going to get. So anyway, that's all I have for you today. I know it was a bit of a long video, but we had some fun going over each of the cards. But anyway, thank you for watching, and have a great day.